Hey guys, welcome back. Just got this 2009 Venza. Going to be replacing the front bumper cover. She said something came up and hit this on the interstate one day, and then also she backed into, I believe, a dumpster. She was having something done to her house. Trying to hide her tag. Had something done to her house, I believe, and the contractor had a dumpster there, and she backed into that. So we're going to put two bumper covers and a tail light. And I want to say this bracket in here, or either one in the front, was broken when I first looked at it. So I've got all four of those parts. These are the two OEM bumpers here. They're about the same cost, maybe a little bit more than aftermarket. And I know they're going to fit a lot better, and the surface finish is going to be a lot better on these. So I went ahead and just got OEM. I'm going to go ahead and pull the front bumper off, have that out of the way. Then I'll probably turn it around just so I'm not out there in the rain, getting the rear out of there. And I want to put the tail light in it to seal it up, get that piece in there and have that done. Make sure all the bulbs are okay. I think some water may have gotten on some of those, but I'm going to go ahead and start on this. Okay, it's off. It took about 10 minutes. Had about maybe a dozen clips, maybe not that many, across this trim piece, this filler panel. Pop those out. One screw on each end of the bumper bracket, one little retainer in the inner fender on each side, and then about 6 or 7 screws through these holes here going into the bumper. I'll have to transfer the grommets from the bottom of that bumper to the new one, and the grills and the fog lights. Pretty simple on this one. There were some bolts down here. Had to get a 10mm there, and there was one clip here behind the grill. I don't know what that was that just popped. Who knows? Anyway, I think this bracket looks okay. To double check that, make sure nothing's cracked in here. Did pull through this little hole here, but I think I can either melt that back together or just put the clip back through it, and it should hold it. I need to check the headlight for any damage under here. I don't think we got any cracks, but I need to make sure none of the mounts are damaged. I think it's okay though. I'm going to go ahead and get the fog light connectors tucked away somewhere in here where they can't get water in them. And then I'll flip this car around and get the back bumper off. Go ahead and try to get the tail light out of here. So that's got those out of the way. I'll probably tape them up also, but at least they're facing down where they can't get water directly in them. I'll put some tape around the front of them to keep the dust and dirt out as I'm working. That's got this. We'll go ahead and get it turned around. Okay, the rear was about maybe 5 to 10 minutes also to get it off. There is a little a plastic seal here that's not on the other side, but I don't see any mounts for one over here, so I think that's the way it was. You got a screw here on both sides. One at the bottom on each bottom corner, one 8mm right there on the brackets. This is the one that's actually broken. The clip in the center here is missing. You can see a spot through there to the paint. So I've got that part. Got our used tail light. I think that's it. I'm going to transfer. I've already taken the plugs out of here. There's a little catch that goes through this hole to retain that piece. I've already taken those out to save, reuse. I didn't get those with the new cover. I don't need to replace those. Gonna have to pull these reflectors out, both sides, and that should be it. I don't think there are any grommets in any holes. There's one screw at the end of that, and it's just a slot with a tab on the other end. I'm gonna get those out, then I'm gonna get both of these bumper covers out of the way. This is a perfect example of when you need to check behind things. You can see right here, paint's cracked. I don't think it broke any seams. You can see some cracks in the paint right there. I can get it to focus on that. See how the paint cracked? You're gonna have to sand that down and just coat it so the water doesn't penetrate through those cracks and make this rust. I think it must have pushed in just this area. I think we're good, but you need to always check. You can see a little bit of crack right there in the seam sealer. So I'm gonna have to need to rub on a little bit of seam sealer in here, make sure none of this is open. A lot of people miss this. They'll throw a cover on it and never even look at this. It's just dirty. You'll get water in the car and you'll have mold, mildew problems, stink, or even worse, rust. So I'm gonna double check the rest of this and wipe it out real good and make sure nothing else is cracked or opened up. We get this thing sealed back off and get it back outside. I've got to work on some other parts inside here and get these rest of these M-Tech parts out. Still got to polish a few pieces, and I'm still working on the M5, so need to get this out, prep these other bumpers, get them painted, get this thing out of here. Alright, the tail light's out. Ended up having to pull this panel off so that I could take that panel there off. Little storage compartment right here that sits in the well. Pop this piece up so that I could pull this out from under it. There's a little handle here that drops the seat. I take the little cover plate there off and the bolt that goes through that. Pop this back. There's not enough access through this bulb access hole to get the tail light out, and you can't even see where the studs are. And it was these two here. There's only two with nuts on them. They're not even visible through that access panel. These go through the body, and then the nuts go on here, and there's a piece of sheet metal that they mount to here, and there's another layer about an inch away. So you can't get down in there and do it by hand. You have to put the nut on here and just slide it in with a socket. So whenever I went to take it off, I was trying to not drop it in between those two pieces of sheet metal and lose it. So I ended up having to just run it all the way off, pull the tail light out a little bit, and keep the nut on the stud, reach a magnet in here and stick it to the nut and pull it off. Couldn't find any other way to get to it. This is the used one, and both the gaskets seem to be good. This is the old one that's broken. This gasket looks okay. I'm just going to leave that gasket on there, but one thing I did find was this area right here, the bottom mount, you can see how it's pushed in. The tail light was impacted, it pushed it in here, and so the tail light may not seal here. I'm going to have to go from behind and put the socket in from behind and tap this area back out flat. Then I'm going to silicone around both of these holes to make sure that that both of them seal right, and also because that gasket is not new. If I had a new gasket and these were perfectly flat, it wouldn't be a problem. It would seal, squish the seal down and seal it. But I'm going to knock that out from inside. I'm going to run this through here, through that hole, get it to come out through here. You can see that. I'm just going to tap that area back out and just get it close, and I'll silicone that. When I put the tail light in, I'll silicone this area on the body, so when I put it in, it'll seal. I'm going to go ahead and get this mounted. That'll have all that done where I can put this back together and just focus on the bumper covers. I'm getting these bumpers for the Venza ready to go. Just got them out of the wrappers. Rear bumper over here looks to be pretty good. There's just a couple of little scuffs on it, like right in here from shipping, but that's nothing I can really feel like a scratch or anything. So I'm just going to polish that out with probably some 1000 grit. Front bumper is another story though. It looks like it's been beat up pretty bad. There's a fairly deep scratch right there. Another one like it right there that could probably be polished out. Really deep scratch here all along, probably 4 or 5 inches long there, and then a little hook on the end. Got a spot down here at the bottom on the edge. It's going to have to get, all this is going to have to get primed. And there's a little place on the edge here, and it may or may not show, but I'm going to go ahead and fix it anyway. That might sand out. But overall, decent. I'd rather have OEM parts for sure than aftermarket. And these are both raw plastics, so I'm going to have to do a real good job cleaning these and scuffing it with probably a gray pad and some scuff paste. Then I'll have to spray adhesion promoter over the entire surface, and then I'll go into sealer, then base and clear. But I got to get these areas fixed first where I can go ahead and get it primed out and get these repaired, the front spots repaired on this bumper here. On the front bumper, just so I can get it ready to go. Normally I could just spray or sand these and spray them, but I'm going to have to do some repair work to this front one. Be back when I get that ready to prime. Alright, I'm getting ready to repair this deep scratch in the front here. It's just deep enough I'm going to have to fill it. And it was so deep that the side of the scratch, each side of it had kind of ridged up, so I took a razor blade, just very carefully spread it across here and just shaved all that ridge off to get it flat again. Went through here with the red Scotch-Brite, got it nice and, well, first I started with 600 wet just to flatten it out after I ran the razor blade on it, but this is all red Scotch-Brite, and I took the fiberglass pen and ran down in the scratch. I'm going to go around here and clean it with some scuff stuff and a wet gray pad. I may even use red here because I'm going to prime over this. I'm not worried about putting a little bit deeper scratch in this. This area will get some primer, so I may just use a red pad, but it'll be wet, and I'll use some of this scuff paste. This also cleans the part to get any kind of mold release or anything that's on the plastic to keep the paint from sticking to it. So I'm going to get this area prepped with that, then I'll end up doing the whole thing later when I get ready to paint it, but for right now I'm just going to do the spots I need to prime. Alright, I've got some of the scuff stuff on this red pad. This is the area where the scratch is, you can see it. I'm just going to clean this area. This will also sand it at the same time. And I may go ahead and do the whole bumper if I have time here, but especially got to get the area where the primer is going to hit. At least out to here, around in this area. You don't really have to use much pressure with this. This scuff pad and the abrasive that's in the paste will scuff this plastic all it needs. And the adhesion promoter will take care of the rest. You don't want to put too deep a scratch in here because it'll start showing in your paint. It's a really delicate surface with this raw plastic. Just going to go around this edge here a little bit just to catch my overspray that goes up to that edge. And this edge also. Like I said, the whole bumper's got to be done anyway, so I can do it now or do it later, but I'm just trying to get this area ready to put some filler on that scratch and get it to where I can get the filler on tonight and then let it sit, and I can come back and do this before primer or after. I just got to have at least the areas I'm going to prime done. Got one more spot down here I need to hit. And I think that spot there is going to need a little primer. I got that spot there out with 1,000 grit, or maybe 2,000. And a little bit of a scratch here that I'm going to have to put a little bit of primer over. It's shallow enough I can just prime it out. This area here is going to have some filler. It's just too deep. You could probably fill it with 3 or 4 coats of primer, but I can get my fingernail in that. It's really deep. So I'll just throw a little filler on that once I got it dried back off. Then I'll spray adhesion promoter over these areas that I've scuffed, get it ready for primer so the primer will stick to it.